Hello and welcome to Not Good Enough's podcast that we don't have a name for because we were too lazy and didn't actually figure out a name before we started this thing. We've been planning this for a month. I'm I'm one of your hosts, Dylan, and my second host is someone you've seen on the Altonian Adventures, but not on the actual D&D podcast, Bree. So, the
Thank you.
So the goal of this podcast is to bring to light some D&D based comics and just have a conversation because D&D based comics are a huge thing to the point that, Scott Snyder's Dark Knight's Metal made a full D&D campaign in Dark Knight's Metal and no one noticed. But that's not what we're talking about today. Today we're talking about Stone Star by Jim Zub and art by Max Dunbar. This book is really goddamn pretty.
Yes, it is. It is a very pretty book.
As I was
Getting into it. Oh,
as I was talking to Bree before we started, I got I got lost in the book because Max Dunbar's art is just fucking gorgeous.
which is very understandable. I remember why reading this when it was coming out monthly, and you kind of do just get stuck on that art for some time. Just like I can just flip through pages
Yeah,
and like read like three lines and then just keep going.
it's insane how pretty this man made this art, considering this is a comixology original.
Yeah, it is.
Which,
And we haven't seen that many of them.
okay, I think I got into two. This was one of them, and the other was Afterlift by Chip Zdarsky.
That makes sense.
Yes,
The Chip Zdarsky book.
Chip Zdarsky is a huge. I'm a huge fan of his. Anyways, yes, welcome to the show. We will be talking about Stone Star. Now, when I was reading this, I did not think this was a D&D book. Bree, on the other hand, thinks this is related. I'm wondering why.
Okay, so straight up front, um, having reread it now, it is definitely like on the edge of D&D. But I remember reading this. Before we did the podcast we're doing currently. Well, actually, you know what? Altoni, yeah, it was during Altoni, I think.
No, it
Which is,
wasn't. Uh,
I think.
I thought Stone Star
Um,
came out like last year.
I think it did. When did Altania first start? Like, when
Altonia,
we had Mayu,
uh,
when the whole Mayu thing was
when
happening.
the whole Mayu thing happened, that was in August. No, July. And no one's ever gonna see that episode, which makes me very sad. But yeah, it happened in July. But after what I've done with um, Altonia and all that, I can kind of see where you're getting at with this being a D&D campaign that Jibs Up really wanted to do.
Yeah, it's basically a kind of a sci-fi mixed with a little bit of like fantasy in there. Like D&D can be like you get like it's a feel of the world. It definitely is building it up
Yeah.
with each of the characters. So in some ways, it very much is a D&D book. It's just science fiction.
As I'm going through this, just Max Dunbar's art is so distracting. Like, I kind of wish there was a crappier artist on this. Not that any artist, like professional artist, is crappy, because I can't draw at all, so I'm not one to judge. But god damn.
Yeah, it can be that way sometimes. As I was getting into Star Wars, Stone Star.
I wasn't going for the Star Wars too, and that was kind of sad.
That was funny. You started going through, and I was like,
I think that was
that's
Star
I don't
Trek.
that, that probably was. You know what? Makes sense.
I was a Trekkie more than I was a Star Wars fan. After the after show of this is just me and Bree arguing what to call Star Wars fans. I'm just gonna
Okay.
I'm gonna put this out. Nerf herders. And if you don't get that, you make me sad.
I do get that.
No, I meant people
So,
watching this.
oh, okay, cool. I
Um,
mean, sad for them if they don't, but you know.
yeah. I'm also sorry if you hear my computer's fan going off. It's because I'm exporting a video for you guys. Anyways. Yes, Bree, go into the synopsis of Stone Star.
Okay, so the basic synopsis of Stone Star is that Stone Star is basically this like big sci-fi space station type planet where all these gladiatorial battles are going on. And so it's kind of like gargantuan vessel, and our story picks up with a character named Dale, and Dale is kind of this, I guess you would call him like this very like thief, like very almost he hangs out with one friend who is it gets him to be like very Han Solo-esque, but he's not. Obviously, he goes around. They like steal from like these different ships and like kind of like takes parts out and go around like they're basically like thieves.
You,
Um,
you know what the bounty hunter looking dude reminds me of? He reminds me of what I think a bugbear looks like.
I like the women's skaters. Like I think his name was Balloon.
There's an okay.
Balloon.
See. This is why you Max Dunbar.
I believe, I believe his character name. That's just a weird name, to be fair.
I mean, balloon is certainly a name.
I'm not even sure if I'm getting his name right though. So
Uh,
don't.
I'm I'm honestly trying to get there.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. Who are we talking about?
I was talking about. Wait, you're talking about
I
the
was
guy in the hat?
Yeah, the guy in the hat.
Yeah.
You,
The
you said
the
his
the straight man.
you said his name was Balloon.
Volume with a V. I knew it started with a V,
It's
not balloon.
Volnus Vilderi.
Volness. There we go. I knew it started with a V.
That's
So
a cooler
Volness.
name than Balloon.
All I remembered was it's a V.
I can kind of imagine Kevin Conroy playing this character. Are we heading
but
towards the pit? Yeah.
but yeah, he's definitely probably the coolest character in this story,
And we
undoubtedly.
meet him within the first 5 seconds. Oh.
Yeah, we do.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
I mean, to me, I think it's a pretty good thing. You know, you jump right into the story. Like this is it's 5 issues long. This story is 5 issues long, and it's very fast paced and very quick moving. Like each issue, something happens.
You know what makes me sad? It says season 1, like they were hoping for multiple seasons.
Well, they were planning for multiple seasons. I believe Jim Zub after the season was done, like he'd already had like stuff written and like made up for more.
What did comixology do? Drop it? It's Jim's Jim's up. Oh, sorry, Mr. Zub.
Well, that's my
We've decided to go a different way with our stories.
well, they haven't really done a lot with any of the originals. So, to be fair,
That is true, and I find it weird.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's continue the story.
Um, I guess I'm there. I guess that. I'm trying to figure out where I left off. That.
Have you finished
There's
this
definitely.
book?
Yes, I finished this book. I remember. Oh, I definitely finished it. I read all 5 issues. Um,
Good, because you had me worried
the,
for a second.
it ends on a pretty kind of massive cliffhanger, sort of, or definitely, depending on how you look at a cliffhanger.
Okay, I'm just gonna warn people right now. We might get into spoiler territory. We'll
Oh
try.
no!
We'll
Oh
try.
yeah! Oh
We'll try not to, but you know what? This is just a conversation.
yeah! This is just a conversation I'm having right now. At this point, it's just a conversation.
Like, we love you and all, kinda. It's a non-committal relationship right now, um, but we're gonna get into spoiler territory for this book.
Okay, then. So like, I kind of want to go into some of the more specific issues outside of issue 1,
Yeah,
but we basically do kind of meet up our characters in the first issue. Set up like the friendship Dale has with, I believe his name was sort of K. Kalinki.
okay. God damn it, you're gonna make me fact check you,
Oh,
aren't you?
wait a minute, I'm going through it right now.
And here's the thing, comixology does not make it easy for, like, tablet users.
Yeah, I'm on tap it right. Make your move. Oh yeah, and they you know what I love about this series?
What do you
I
love?
definitely I love the character interactions in this series.
Yeah,
Like
you know what? Um, the writing matched with Max Dunbar's art is kind of lending itself into a real emotional roller coaster, and I'm really liking that.
yeah, there's actually I think what is it? This is issue 1. Yeah, I love the scene where they meet the pink haired alien chick and they basically end up helping her.
Yeah.
And that was really fun moment. They have like these really great like back and forths with each other. Um, I definitely of all 5 issues, I probably say my favorite issue is issue 4, which goes because throughout this whole like the first like 3 issues, we don't really get a lot of like these characters' backstories. And so we don't really know like a whole lot about besides what we get to see, which is their like fun little interactive moments. And then it's like the 4th issue where we get like both characters' backstories, the Dale's character and the pink hair's chick's characters backstory. And like we learn about like his father and like their past and like how his father was in like the Stone Star tournament. Okay, I guess I should go into that. Okay, so I kind of said it's like a gladiatorial like um
You,
planet.
yeah, you said they were like
I'm
gladiatorial
kind of
matches.
yeah. So like he's so like basically like it kind of seems like from what we can gather from each of these lectures that sometimes these characters end up choosing to go into, but in the case of one like Dale's friend at one point, uh it seems like we don't really get to see him get kidnapped, but it seemed like he was kind of like forced into the tournament at one point and by himself, and Dale basically has to go and save him before he gets killed.
Wow.
Um,
Jesus.
so yeah, that happens.
The
Um, and we
pink chick's name is Kikani.
Kikani. There we
Yes.
go. Thank you
No
for
problem.
that.
That's what I'm here for. Fact checking. Reading the book retroactively because I got distracted by Max Dunbar's art.
There is only I was really hoping to do with the name thing was I was hoping that there would be like a site that would just have all the names listed. But I guess with this book not getting super huge, there
Yeah,
isn't really a place that just has all the names.
it's a real shame that Max Dunbar doesn't get a lot of work for
Yeah.
for comics because he has some extremely good art. And petition right now, Max Dunbar on a Critical Role comic would be fucking brilliant. Actually, I'm pretty sure. Wait, give me a second. You keep talking.
Oh, okay, cool, great. But yeah, when I was going to the fourth issue, we find out in that fourth issue that we learned about Dale's past, and we found that his father actually was in one of these stone throw competitions, and like he was like seems like a really good fighter. Like he takes a dude out, like when a dude steals his like swords, and when his son's like, oh, his son's like, oh no, my dad's gonna like get killed. He doesn't have any weapons. He's like, nah, bro, you can't hit me, you can't cut me, you can't hit me. And he just starts dodging him, and he goes to the back of him and then like knocks him in the back of the head and keeps him with like a stick. It's really fun.
Now now I'm just imagining. Nah, man, I am the weapon. It's time to get fucked.
Yeah, that's basically what happens.
Okay, so Max Dunbar is basically the D&D comic artist, and I did not realize that.
Yeah,
God, he's so good.
yeah,
Um,
he is very good.
but anyways, so
Which is kind of the reason why I thought it would be good for this podcast. Not really thinking the whole sci-fi aspect of it. I forgot about.
wait, you forgot about the sci-fi aspect of a sci-fi book? Sorry, folks. But he was still imagining his Star Wars campaign.
You're not wrong.
He misses it so much. That's when I swoop in and just start DMing a Star Wars campaign. Anyways, it it it's really pretty, and it does seem like an interesting concept of a gladiatorial world in which you can either choose or be forced to fight. It honestly reminds me of Warworld from
Yeah,
DC, in which it, when I think about this book, I'm thinking like Justice League, the cartoon. When Superman gets caught in Warworld and has to fight that douchebag with the backwards S.
yeah.
But there's laser swords.
Yeah, there's laser swords.
And she's
Okay.
honestly badass.
Yeah.
I might instate a rating system on how connected this is to D&D, and I'm pretty sure just by Jim Zub's name, it's gonna get at least a 5.
Jim Zub and Max Dunbar. So you got the D&D dude with Jim Zub. It's just a D&D fiend doing a sci-fi book.
I honestly think that Jim Zub and Max Dunbar are in a D&D campaign like us, and they're just playing games. They're playing their games and then writing it. Okay. So this was only 20 minutes. I'm
And this is one of the things I was bringing up when I was like, so just want to do just one trade? Sure.
Okay. Bree.
Why is it just only 5 issues?
Yeah, there's five
Um,
issues. It's an interesting story. Um, I am fairly certain that this book should be like this book should not have been a comixology original, and I'm wondering how much they paid Jim Sub to keep it a comixology original. Because if this was an image book, it would have gotten a season two.
oh yeah, definitely.
Um, but uh,
Oh,
Brie, if you want, you can go to your website and search up white trees, and I'll talk about that for 20 minutes to fucking an hour because
okay, but before I do, I kind of want to go into like I think okay,
yeah,
can I go into like a little bit
yeah,
full
you know
down
what? Go in.
spoiler
Okay,
for
well, you know what?
spoiler telephone with this?
Yeah, go into as much spoiler as possible because I'm interested in what is going to what you're going to say. So go into as much spoiler as fucking possible. While I
Okay, so like
go,
so
just go.
like okay, so in the so I kind of brought up all that happened in the fourth video, but I didn't kind of bring up the whole big reveal about like Dale's character
Yeah.
and the fact that like okay, so one of the ways he ends up going because the way he ends up remembering his past, you know how like in a lot of D&D stories, like they find like these retroactive ways of like going into like a person's history in like these really cool ways, like you could imagine a person like this happened, so now you have to make a wisdom save or something like that, and like you fail it, and then like you're like transported to your past, and like that's what this moment pretty much was because when Dale has to like save his friend, he ends up having to get into this big fight, and in this kind of massive fight, he ends up transforming into like this weird mech thing. Um, it's like in the third issue, and he ends up like everyone thinks at the very end that he ends up dying because the monster ends up like crushing the mech. But like there's like this weird blue light that happens as he's being crushed, and it would lead into the fourth issue, which we were get his past, and we kind of learn like kind of like all these like differing abilities that Dale actually has inside of him. Basically like almost kind of like like the whole main character moments where like you found like all these abilities you kind of have. That kind of what ends up happening to Dale because he just has like this machine now, and I think at the end of the fourth issue he ends up being disconnected from him. Um,
So
at
wait, he
the
turns out to
very
be an
end.
artificer.
There we go. That's there. Yeah, yeah. All right, sure. Yeah, that.
Except he's born with his magical powers, and artificers learn it. I think.
Yeah, see, Dylan knows the D&D terms a little better than I do.
Dylan, the host of Not Good Enough, somehow knows D&D terms. The show.
um, but yeah, that ends up happening, and in like the final issue, we kind of get into like what's this being's name? It was something like I think it was the Grandioso. Yes, I think you think it was the Grandioso who was like the leader of this world.
The
Which I
Grandioso? Damn, that's a pompous
yeah,
name.
I
I'm the
think I think it actually
Grandioso.
was I think it actually was his name.
I'm the Grandioso. I'm the most pompous being in the world. I'm guessing the Grandioso is the organizer of these gladiatorial combat.
Yeah, pretty much. That kind of ends up what happens at the end. Like the Grandioso kind of like says, "Hey, you're gonna help join into this new gladiator rebellion in Stone Star," and that's kind of where the story kind of ends off. they kind of make a deal with the Grandioso. And I think Dale asks about his father, how his father was killed. Doesn't really give him a straight answer about that. But yeah.
Alright, so Stone Star, guessing from the synopsis you've given me and what I've read so far without getting distracted, is basically Star Wars, but with actual D&D logic. And Dale is Ezra.
Yeah. Actually, does Dale actually feels very Ezra-like, and if I'm being honest,
He looks like
um,
Ezra.
he, he the finger chick Kiyakio, you said her name was, or something like
Kikani.
that.
Kikani.
Kikani, there you go. Kikani kind of feels a little bit like,
Sabine.
yeah.
Here's the weird thing for me. Dale looks like Ezra. And that's weird. Alright.
But yeah,
So scale
that's
from
pretty
one
much everything.
scale from 1 to 10. How connected to D&D do you think Jim's made this?
Say that part again.
Scale from 1 to 10. How connected do you think Jim's made this to D&D?
Oh, I think he definitely had like the idea of this being a D&D campaign. That's not even a question to me.
So a 10.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
10.
I'm gonna say a 7. I can see the elements, but I think that Jim's was mostly going for like a Star Wars like story because I think he really wants to write Star Wars, but is a little fearful of the brand. And let's be honest, the toxic fans.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, there's no fandom that hates itself more than the Star Wars fandom. Oh, I'm gonna get so much hate for that one. Anyways, now we're gonna wisp off and travel to the fourth realm in a country called Blacksand, where White Trees is based, by Chip Zdarsky with art by Kris Anka. This book is pretty. For our
Why do I feel like that's going to be your thing now? That's going to be your thing this week. This is going to be Dylan's hashtag for the week, you guys.
this
They knew
book
him
is
the
pretty.
show. This is pretty.
You know
That
what?
good enough.
That good enough. This book is pretty. The show, the podcast. Anyways, so here's one thing I love about a lot of D&D comics. They give you a map of like the world. So the first image for this book is the map of Blacksand, and you get like the provinces like Corlantes, Midworth, Trelawney, and Windholding if you want to use this in your own D&D campaign. I'm gonna call this story Old Man Logan, but if the kids survived. um, so, we begin off with this man tilling a farm and just like he just picks up a flower, and Kris Anka's line work and just anatomy of each character is just fucking beautiful. And we just see this image of a very purple lady. I assume it's a lady. A purple NB. I'm gonna call them that. And then we're just sent into like this castle where the king is, and we learn that this man's who the character is called I love it when people get titles in comics because it's always so good. Your Majesty, may I present Sir Krylos the Bold, son of Sir Tangar the Proud, and Lady She-Rock the Wild, General of the 72nd Regiment, Lord of the Blood. And then I love that. I love that. I live for
Oh
it.
my god!
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's very overly fancy.
It's so overly fancy. It's amazing. I love it when D&D creators do that. I love it when any comic book creator does it. I love it when TV shows does it. I've not watched a single episode of Game of Thrones, but I've heard Khaleesi's whole title, and I fucking live for it. So we learn that Krylos' kid has been kidnapped, along with what looks to be a bear guard, before bear guards were invented. It's just this giant bear with a beard. And I always love Zdarsky's writing in the sense that he knows when to put pauses. I'm afraid your children, and it's like dash dash dash, and you're like, what? Have been abducted. Bam bam bam. By the way, I'm very happy for the LGBT representation in this book. The bear guard is gay for the super frilly elf dude. It's amazing. And it brings a whole new definition to bear.
Well, I feel like Grace would love that.
And this, okay, so Krylos has, because his wife died in some war, we don't actually get any backstory on these characters other than like certain blurbs. This is only a 2-issue miniseries.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Okay.
So the story you get is the story you get, but you get so much story in this book. First off, we learn that okay, 1 second. Again, I'm going to say all these titles because I love them. Sir Scotier of Blacksand and Sir Davlon the Swift, mages of the and this guy keeps trying to say titles and he gets cut off at every point. It's amazing. I think Scotier is the bear guard, and Davlon is the elf, his elf husband, I think. And we learn that their children have been taken, and Krylos thinks his son was going out fishing, and I don't know what Scotier was thinking, but he did not believe that Krylos' kid and his kid were hooking up. And so Krylos has sworn off violence after his wife tragically died during a war that we don't get to see. And what happens is he just tills his farm, and his son kind of gets sick of this mundane life. And you think, hey, you get sick of your mundane life in a D&D comic, you usually go off in adventuring. No. This man goes off with his girlfriend and draws her like one of the French girls. By the way, this Krylos he's got black. uh, The whites of his eyes are black. His eyes are blue. It's a cool contrast. Like, it's a bright blue on a black background. And they're and Davlon is just trying to convince Krylos to, well, rescue their children, and all Krylos is doing is going back home because he can't even think of killing another man after what happened during the war. And it's so sad. We can do this, Krylos! We're the warriors who took Trollocs Gate! We're legends! And it says we're legends in the smallest font possible. It's so sad.
Oh.
But apparently Scott here is a fucking, not warforged, blacksmith, so he makes his weapon, and Davlon is just a full-on ranger. No armor, no nothing, just his abs are protecting him. Hey, Bree, remember when abs protected somebody? Except this actually works. And a bow and
How does it
arrow.
work? How does this work?
This man doesn't get hit, like, at all. It's kind of surprising.
Oh, wow.
And it's just the sweet scene of Davlon trying to convince his husband that Krylos should be coming to save his son. Here's a weird quirk about me that no one will ever know, is that I love gay relationships when they're portrayed fairly sweetly. Like in Legends of Tomorrow, in like the Crisis on Earth X with Ray and Citizen Cold.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a sweet relationship that I physically went 4 times. So after they leave their forge, they just see Krylos on a horse with a shield and a sword, and it's just a badass picture. I'm gonna try to put it up while we're talking. And it's 4 panels.
What channel?
No, I'm gonna put it up onto the video.
Oh, okay, cool.
It is just 4 panels, fully silent, but it conveys all the meaning. So you get like flashbacks every so often about like Krylos tending to his farm and talking to his son, and it's the most serious conversation about the most mundane thing. Dad, what's past the sky? I don't know. Does it just go on and on and on? I don't know. Maybe the gods live there. Maybe do the gods have their own gods? Do Shulkra, like he is the most stoic man in the world. And he just has, by the way, let me tell you the weapons. Scotchar has a giant battle axe at the ready at all times. Well, while his husband has a bow and arrow, and Krylos has a sword and shield. It's just a full D&D party. It's a barbarian, a fighter, and a ranger. Which, if you think about any D&D parties, only a half caster? That's gonna hurt you. Anyways, as the story progresses, we do meet Scottyar's ex-wife, Milola, who apparently knew about the children's relationship, I think. Yes. Yeah, she knew. Because what daughter wouldn't tell their mother everything? Um, and there's a little bit of banter going around about about just generally about Scottyar. Scott, she says, and by the way, there is no bad blood between Milola and Davlon, to the point where she's like, Scottyar still haven't Scottyar still haven't realized you're too good for him. Oh wait, Scottyar's I got that wrong. Davlon was the fucking bear. Scottyar is the ranger. See, you learn new stuff when you like reread old comics.
Yeah. That can happen a lot, especially when after a while when you like kind of forget some certain like little plot points. You gotta reread them.
Yeah. By the way, you do see the paint me like like one of your French girls painting. Unfortunately, no private parts of any type. It's just her in like a red blanket, and they just go.
Well, that's kind of nice, actually.
Yeah, it's really well done. Um, you know those moments when you look at a painting in a comic, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
that's not. It's like, eh. Like when you see like Bruce Wayne's portrait in Wayne Manor, you're kind of like, eh. With this, Chris Anka should be doing more mainstream books because he is just amazing. But yeah, as we go through, we learn that we just they do a little bit of investigating. And Krylos touches the painting and says, "It's still wet." And I'm like, okay, how long has this painting been there? That's still wet. Like, it had to be long enough that someone found out that their children went missing.
Yep.
It's interesting. So yeah, we learned that there's a war against Trellonians. It's a fairly interesting political drama in the sense that you learn that it's not all nice and straight and black and white. Like, you learn that the reason that these children were kidnapped were not because of anything else, but because they were the children of mighty warriors. So they go through mountains. They have all these conversations that I don't want to spoil because the conversations are done very well, in the sense that what they're talking about why Krylos is hated so much, and it boils down to he left, and Davlon felt betrayed. And then they get to a dragon in the mountains. And honestly, it's a cool ass dragon. It has whiskers. And not like cat whiskers or anything, like catfish whiskers. You know those whiskers that kind of go around the body? Kind of like that. It's cool. And Scott here is the first. It's the first to roll initiative because apparently he got nat 20 or something and shot the dragon in the face with an arrow, and the dragon decided, "You shot me with an arrow. I'm gonna burn you."
Like that hurt. Didn't hurt that much, but it still hurt.
and
Therefore,
and then
death.
and then Davlon decided, hey, I'm gonna jump in while the dragon's blowing his breath, and he jumps, gets whacked like fly swatter whacked. His axe goes flying, and it just lands right near Krylos. And this is one of my favorite panels in most comics. Damn it, Krylos, fight! And it's just Scott here behind a rock saying, damn it, Krylos, fight! Screaming for Krylos to fight. And Krylos just looks up. 1 second. And kind of looks at the dragon eye to eye. By the way, facing the dragon down. And picks up the axe, walks away, and breaks the chain that was holding the dragon, and the dragon flies away. He just finishes it off without fighting, without anything. It's kind of interesting.
That's kind of cool. I was kind of find interesting whenever you know someone manages to like murder.
It's kind of very D&D in the way that if you can end a situation without starting a fight, then do it. No one's gonna think you're wrong of it. We've done that a couple times. I think I've done that more than you have. Like, yes,
hey.
You're supposed to be the pacifist. You know that, right? Instead, I'm doing all the pacifist shit.
I'm not always a pacifist. Thank you very much. I think Zarkon has stopped a few fights.
More than Chase?
I don't know.
Anyways, we're talking about a campaign that's not filmed.
Are we counting? I know we're counting.
We're talking about a campaign that's not filmed and no one's gonna understand.
I know what we're talking about.
Anyways, so then it's another flashback of just Krylos and his son having dinner. And again, it's the most serious thing ever. Dad, have you ever met a dragon? Aye. What was that? Fierce creatures, remorseless and beautiful. Like, it's the most serious thing ever. Like, I feel like he wouldn't be great at a party. But you do not. I'd love to meet one. You do not. Dragons are monsters, Chakra. Death in their eyes and their hearts. They are killers. But you've told me about them before. Weren't you a killer? That line is just heart-wrenching. And
sounds pretty legit.
When it's delivered, you just see Krylos' eyes widen, and you gotta keep in mind Krylos' eyes are basically all black except for the irises, which are blue. It projects such sadness.
Man, that's
So they go into these woods in which they set up camp, like you do in a D&D campaign. And Krylos asked for Scotchyar's bow so he can get dinner. So this is honestly one another interesting part. He misses the shot, by the way, so he misses the deers that he was hunting. And then basically a dryad says, "A terrible shot," and begins to and like 3 dryads begin to seduce all 3 of the party and fully tear them down. Scotiar starts fucking a weird devil dude. Dovlon gets an elven guy and a tree girl. And Krylos is the only one not affected because he's just so broken and hurt. He's so sad. And the only way Dovlon gets out of his seduction is his husband just kneeling beside him and saying, "Our daughter needs us." And it just snaps him out.
There you go. His
And
husband just what? Sorry.
his husband just kneels down and says, our daughter needs us. And it snaps him out. And he just fucking he just chucks these dryads away. And the dryads,
eating them?
Yeah, just eating them. And the dryads that Krylos is dealing with are going like, "Krylos the bold, it's time to be bold again, time." And then this dryad kisses him and realizes that he's just so fucked up. And then he brings back a wolf and they have dinner. So, okay, this is running a little bit longer than I thought it would.
We went from just 20 minutes to how long are we at now?
We're at 53. I've been talking
Oh,
about this.
that's not too bad. An hour.
I could keep talking about this because it's such a good book. But I do want people to buy this because Chip Zdarsky...
You're kind of going through every little thing, so you don't want to do...
Yeah. Chip Zdarsky is an amazing writer. And by the way, I've only gone through, let me just check, 31 of 35 pages for the first issue. So yeah, I've gone through a lot. But, by the way, at the end of each issue that you buy, you get sketches.
Ooh!
Like concept designs of each character. So, there's Kris's sketches of Sir Krylos the Bold, Sir Scotiar of Blacksand, and Sir Dovlon the Swift. The 2-issue miniseries. The first issue is actually free on comixology, and the second issue is like, I think $2 and $2. So you know, it's pretty much a steal. And I think Stone Star is going for about $8 for the whole volume. So we do extremely recommend these books. And if you want to see more of these types of books, you gotta vote with your dollar and buy them, because then creators know that there's a demand for these books.
Yep.
I think what we're going to do for this podcast is 2 books a week.
Yeah, that works.
That's
Maybe.
That's
Or at least, sorry, or at least enough. Whatever we think we can get enough out of to do at least an hour episode.
Yeah, so we're gonna do, like, if we can do a book a week, we're gonna do like alternating hosts for, like, he does a book, I do a book.
Yeah, that works.
So I'm thinking of Not Good Enough Book Club.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that could work.
Uh,
Um, also thinking not good enough comics and dragons.
that's pretty
I don't
good.
know
Comics and Dragons. Um,
how
I'm gonna announce next week's book because I want to, and I'm going to just say it. It's gonna be Fair Lady.
that.
I'm gonna see if I can.
Evil.
I'm gonna see if I can grab Gray for that one.
Okay, cool. Um, how would you feel about? I also kind of want to do a review of the Stranger Things Dungeons and Dragons book. Would that
Uh,
be okay?
yeah, sure. Do you really want to do that next week or we?
No, that'll be next week. It can be the week after.
All right, yeah, we'll do it the week after. So yeah, thanks for starting this weird experiment with us. This whole thing's actually a weird experiment, but thank you for starting this weird experiment with us. Um, like, comment, subscribe, all of those things. Ring the bell. Ring the bell. And we will see you probably next time on Not Good Enough Comics and Dragons.
Yeah.